Hey, Champion Nation. My name is Kayshawn Cooper, and I am the host of the Champion Nation podcast.
So, first and foremost, I think the effect of multiple sclerosis for me has been different, right? So, I love amusement parks. So, when you think about, let's say, a Six Flags or whatever amusement park that you like, it's like a roller coaster. So, roller coasters go up, they go down. There's so many different parts to the roller coaster and to the ride experience. And that's exactly what MS has been for me. In the very beginning, things were very, very dark. Mentally, I was in a very dark, just very grim space. I think that I was asking a lot of questions like why? Like how? How am I 29 years old and I have a diagnosis that's so serious?
Today, I have the wonderful opportunity to sit down and chat with someone that people call a warrior, that many call a champion, someone who did not allow their diagnosis to define them or deny them, someone who embraced their diagnosis but figured out a way to work around it and overcome that diagnosis. This individual, her name is Domonique Cooper. How she went from being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a disease that can cripple, a disease that can cause you to lose all hope. How she went from being diagnosed from multiple sclerosis to community champion. You are in for a treat. If you or you know someone that's dealing with or battling with an illness that has, where all hope is gone, this is something you want to see and listen to. What's up, Champion Nation? This is Kayshawn Cooper, your host of the Champion Nation podcast. I gotta say it, I am super excited, uber excited about this opportunity to not only to sit down and chat with, have you ever seen the picture on Google or social media where there's the mother holding the baby, holding the vacuum cleaner, holding the cell phone, holding the tablet? Oh my God. I mean, she has about 8, 9, 10, 20 arms. Guess what? Domonique is that woman in the picture. This is the real life person. I'm here. I'm honored to be joined with Dominique Cooper. Yes, we do share the same last name, which means that we are married. So not only do I have the opportunity to interview and talk and sit down and chat with my wife, but I'm honored because she's also my friend and someone who's making, major moves in the community. Many call her a warrior. Others call her a champion. And I'm grateful to call her my friend and my wife. So Domonique, welcome to the Champion Nation podcast.
Thank you, Kayshawn. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining us, the viewers and the listeners. So tell us briefly about Domonique Cooper.
So I think you summed it up to begin with pretty well. I am a mom. I am your wife. I am a community activist, a advocate for children in the community, and I am just everywhere here in our local community to make a difference for the betterment of families and children as well.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I hear a little twang in your dialect. You're not from Georgia, are you?
Not from Georgia. Baltimore, Maryland is home. Born and raised in Baltimore, specifically West Baltimore, and love being from there.
Okay, is West Baltimore where they say West Side certified?
This is true.
Would you qualify as West Side certified? I don't even know what that means, but
Absolutely.
Okay, but now you are in Georgia, Atlanta to be specific, or the suburbs of Atlanta. How did you get down here, and how long have you been down here?
Yep, great question. So I've been in the suburbs of Atlanta for almost 12 years. And I came here by way of work. So I was transferred with my previous employer, and I came here. Honestly, I didn't even know how to pronounce the county in which I was moving to initially. I kept saying Gwinnett County. Of course, it's called Gwinnett County, but been here for 12 years at the end of October.
Okay, 12 years. Wow. So would you consider this home now?
It is home now.
Okay.
It
Okay.
certainly is
So
home. Yep.
so you came down here for work. What agency or what did you do prior to, what how did you move what company did you move down with, or how
Yep.
did
So
that
I
go?
was working for Social Security Administration, and I was working for our payment center in Baltimore, and got a transfer here to our field office in Norcross.
Okay, I hear you say I was working. So my assumption is that you don't work there anymore. You don't work anymore. You don't work there anymore. What do you?
So I don't work for Social Security Administration anymore. I ended up taking a medical retirement some years ago from the agency, which was super hard. Really, really impacted me a great deal. But I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and after the diagnosis, I kind of separated from the agency to take care of my health.
Wow. So when were you diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
Officially, I was diagnosed February 2015, but began having symptoms of the MS in 2014.
What were those symptoms like?
Oh man, super, super unpredictable. I'll tell you that I was having really, really bad loss of balance initially. I didn't know what was going on, right? I just thought, hey, am I being a little clumsy or something? But off balance, had terrible migraine headaches that I just couldn't shake, vision issues, cognitive issues, couldn't really remember short-term things that I should have known, right? So if it were names or places and things of that sort, but it was very, very unpredictable, and it was really a whirlwind of things that began to unfold really fast. And to be honest with you, it took approximately probably a good 8 months to get an official diagnosis.
Wow. So so you said unpredictable. Was that because of the nature of the what you were dealing with being so unpredictable? Is that the reason why you retired?
Absolutely. So the symptoms really early on that presented, it had me in a situation where I could not be an asset to the agency. So I was just not in a great space to be able to do so. Having an inability to have balance or to even be able to get up and walk, it made it a situation where it was tough to be able to do my job, which I loved so, so much, Kayshawn.
Wow, I'm sure. The way you're smiling, the way when you talk about it, it sounds like you really did not want to leave. So, was it like your multiple sclerosis just like sort of just forced you out?
It did. It did. And I kind of went kicking and screaming, so to speak. So, 2014, had our son. And once I delivered Jabari, literally, I had all ambition to go right back to work and to go right back to what I had left really quickly. However, my health had other plans. And because of that, I had to make a really, really quick decision to say, you know what, this is not something that I can do and still serve the public in the best way, in the best manner possible. So perhaps I should take some time off. So what led to a medical retirement started as just short-term disability opportunities, for a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time. And it just really, really began to just increase time. And eventually I made the hard decision to not return back to work. But I loved everything that I did. Serving the public and being a public servant was something that was just in my heart to be able to do so.
Wow. I would say that you are probably one in a million, because I know when I go to the Social Security office to give talk about a Social Security card, man, the lines are long. The people seem mean. Actually, I don't even want to go there, but it seems to me that you you made up a really really small percent of those who love being there. Let me ask you a question. You know, I don't really, outside of you, I don't know. Maybe there's one other person, I can't say for sure, but outside of you, I don't know anyone personally that has multiple sclerosis. Is either I'm living underneath of a rock, or or it's fairly, is it rare? Is it common? I'm not sure.
Great question. So MS is pretty rare. Right now, typically there's approximately about 1 million people in the US that have been diagnosed with MS. And in the world, it's about 2.8 million. So when you think
Oh
about our
yeah.
population, that's still really, really small. To tell it to you like this, it's approximately 363 people for every 100,000 in the US. So we're talking about a
Wow.
very, very
Wow.
small percentage of people that have been diagnosed with MS. Yep.
Wow. So when the different symptom when the different symptoms when they started, did you just chuck it up to something else?
I did. I really did. I honestly thought that the migraines were something that had just come back. I had a tumor on my pituitary gland back in 2004, and I thought perhaps the tumor was coming back, and that was the reason for the continuous migraines. In regards to being off balance, again, I had no idea. I thought, well, when I was younger, my mom used to say, hey, I'm going to put Dominique in ballet so that she can, walk a certain way and carry herself a certain way. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to do some things to kind of get myself back together again. So I didn't know. It was really, really confusing at first. And the concern grew as time went by.
I, I I can see why. I can see why. So let me ask you how. Let's fast forward to now. You know, present. We are at July 23rd, 2023. How has, from being diagnosed in 2015 up until 2023, how has multiple sclerosis, your diagnosis, how has it affected your life?
Wow. So, first and foremost, I think the effect of multiple sclerosis for me has been different, right? So, I love amusement parks. So, when you think about, let's say, a Six Flags or whatever amusement park that you like, it's like a roller coaster. So, roller coasters go up, they go down.
Hmm.
There's so many different parts to the roller coaster and to the ride experience. And that's exactly what MS has been for me. In the very beginning, things were very, very dark. Mentally, I was in a very dark, just very grim space. I think that I was asking a lot of questions like why? Like how? How am I 29 years old and I have a diagnosis that's so serious? So I went through that. I went through a level of research after research, right? I went out there to the internet and boy, did I get more information than what I bargained for. But now, if we fast forward to right now and in present day, Kayshawn, I got to tell you, I am so grateful for my diagnosis. And I know that
Mm.
sounds ultra interesting. I'm sure it really, really does. But literally, I am grateful that God gave me the diagnosis because I think it forever changed my perspective on life, on family, on just a variety of just different things. So I am grateful for the MS diagnosis. I think that it's opened me up to so many different things and so many different connections with other people.
Wow. Let's go back. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back to the beginning, because there are people who are going to listen to this and going to watch this, that they are in the beginning phases of of dealing with a diagnosis. I heard not too long ago someone said that most people die from the More people die from the prognosis than the diagnosis. So if you can, gently walk us through how you went from that dark place to where you at now. I'm sure it wasn't a snap of the finger. It couldn't have been.
You're right.
So if you could walk us through and what you experienced during that dark
Well,
time.
I honestly gotta say, I give all credit to God. Honestly, I thought I knew God before, and I thought I had a relationship with God before, but literally that relationship and that connection spiritually is literally what has kept me for the last 8.5 years. And I have relied on tons of prayer, tons of journaling opportunities, tons of opportunities to be able to connect with God, because that was the only safe haven that I felt like I had. I didn't feel like people understood, not family, not friends, not associates. So I would definitely give all credit to God in the relationship that I have spiritually as what has been my saving grace um, after my MS diagnosis, and what's got me from that very dark and grim space to literally there's nothing that can stop me from smiling, and nothing that can stop me from just having a level of excitement for life in all capacities.
It sounds like spirituality was a big component in your life, going from being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis to community champion. Outside of spirituality, what else would you contribute to your success? Like how what else would you contribute to overcoming those challenges of dealing with and being diagnosed with MS?
Staying busy. And I know that sounds like a huge oxymoron, but staying busy for me was literally the difference maker. So going out there and getting involved in other organizations, getting involved with other community events, being able to actually be a helper for other people, and intentionally making a difference. So whether that was with my time, whether that was with talent, whether that was with treasure, those things have actually helped me to champion my diagnosis.
So staying busy, and you're not talking about busy being busy doing figure eights. You're not talking about that. I don't think you're talking about that, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so I guess it'd be safe to assume being busy about things that you are passionate about,
Absolutely.
which leads me to the question, what are some of the things that you are passionate about?
Wow. Are you going to give me, do I have like a certain number to give you? Because as you know, I could probably just keep talking on and on and on about this. You're talking about passion now. So
I
you got
know.
to give me some parameters.
Okay, no, no, no. We don't have all day. You can, but,
Understood.
but if there's top three
Okay.
things that you are truly passionate about that help to lead you from that dark spot with spirituality and then being busy. So you're praying and being busy. So what are those passions that kept you busy?
Okay, so thanks for keeping me in a box, because I have none when it comes to passion. First and foremost is advocacy. So advocacy for others is probably my number one top passion. Second passion is probably anything to do with children, youth, kids, students, all in kind of one big funnel. And third passion, I would probably say, is service in any capacity. So, service for humans, service for animals, service for the elderly, just service in its totality. I love giving of myself. I love intentionally being able to help others. And I do that in so many different ways. So those are my top three, since you kept me to three.
Yeah, I have to keep you to three, and I may make a question a little bit more. I may make this scenario and the situation a little bit more interesting for you, because I I know you picked three, but what areas have you focused your advocacy and community work on?
Okay. So number one, interestingly enough, is multiple sclerosis. So I'm a huge advocate um, for persons that have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, as well as caregivers for those that have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So that's one area. The second area would be the safety of our children. So anything to do with safety. For example, I'm involved with CASA. So CASA is an organization that basically helps to champion our kids that are in the foster care system. So being involved with CASA has been something that's been a huge important factor in my life, because I always think that those kids didn't ask for the deck of cards that have been dealt to them, so to speak. And they deserve champions, even at administrative roles, to be able to support them and their journey throughout the system. And last but certainly not least would be education. So I'm a huge, huge advocate for our education system, in particular our public schools. And what I mean more specifically is I am really, really in support of equity, equality, and access for students of all different walks of life, but in particular those that identify as being our minority or marginalized students in schools. So again, I could keep talking on and on and on, but
No.
those are the top three. And so to just share more with you, I've over the years I have been able to kind of put MS to the side, right? MS is something that's non-curable. You can't cure MS at this time, right? But they're currently working on that, and they're a lot closer than what they were even 10 years ago. So I'm very hopeful and optimistic about that. But what has kept me over the years is the involvement with CASA, the involvement with Gwinnett County Public Schools, the involvement with PTA, the involvement with other organizations that support other humanity, regardless of race or ethnicity or anything. Those are things that really, really bring me joy and help me to almost kind of forget about my diagnosis, which is a little interesting.
So basically, what you're saying is where your focus goes, that's what grows.
Absolutely.
So once you removed the focus off the obvious, I mean, you obviously you have a medical diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, right?
Yes.
So
Look,
you
look,
you
look, as they say, I have the papers to prove it.
okay, yes, yes, yes. So you have the papers. So having the papers to prove it, you decided not to focus on the obvious and focused on something that was near and dear to your heart. How did Casa come about to be a passion of yours?
Great question. CASA was first brought up by a mutual acquaintance, probably back in like 2009. And I remember her saying she was involved, and I was like, "What's CASA?" And when she shared it with me, she lived in Arkansas, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is something I want to do." But life happened. I always say life was life, and so
Right.
never quite got a chance to really get involved. And then literally, I believe it was probably 2020. And I made a conscientious effort after we all went through, a pandemic. And I wrote down some life goals and some action items for myself that I wanted to intentionally get involved in. So I began to seek out how to contact CASA here in, Georgia, in particular in Gwinnett County. I jumped through a few hoops and was able to get in contact with the parties in charge. I ended up going through a process to be trained for CASA. And after that
Mhm.
training for CASA, I ended up going through a formal process in the court system and became a court sworn CASA member here. So went through that, got my first case, was super, super
Congratulations.
excited. Thank you. Super excited to be able to make an impact and to meet with a youth that had had some tumultuous experiences in his life. And I've gone from being that CASA representative and advocate to now I sit on a board for CASA for Fulton County, Atlanta. So again, still helping, but in a different role and different capacity.
And also, you mentioned that you're a mom, um, and where did the passion come from with being a part of the school, being an advocate for the school system? Because, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of parents. Not everyone wants to be a part of the school system. Not everyone wants to, be so active. So what was your drive-in force for you to say, you know what, I'm going to go from parent to being an advocate, excuse me?
Great question. So PTA was always in the background, had been involved with PTA, which is our Parent Teacher Association, since 2007. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of DIY projects and being able to support the school with, events and daddy-daughter dance and mom-son events and all sorts of really nifty things. However, life took a turn for me when I began to get involved with our schools internally, right? So it's one thing to come in as a volunteer from the outside, but it's another thing to come into the school and actually lay eyes on internal process, internal procedure, seeing kids inside a classroom. And I became a substitute teacher, right again,
Wow.
during COVID. So that passion grew and was able to really, really take on a mind of its own. And that has really, really just kind of increased my passion for our schools, our students, and just the whole idea of education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you put multiple sclerosis on the back burner, and then you took on this project of being a CASA, started as being what is it called again?
A CASA advocate
A
initially.
CASA. Okay, a CASA advocate. And then you went from being a CASA advocate, you loved the impact there so much that you decided to join the board. And then did these things happen separately, or why, or were you doing some of these things simultaneously?
I was really doing all of it simultaneously. So being on board for CASA as well as being a CASA advocate, those happened at two different times. However, being involved with CASA, being inside the school, being a mom, and all of the other activities and involvements with our community were happening literally simultaneously. Everything was overlapping at the same exact time.
How did you find time to sleep?
That's a really, really great question. And honestly, I get asked that a lot. I don't know. I think I remember joking with my great grandmother, Mama, that we so affectionately called her when she was living, and she would talk about sleep. And I remember saying to her, even then, you know what? I'll sleep when I'm no longer here. And that's kind of my whole approach to life, even at this point. Sleep is not important. We've got work to do. So
No, no, absolutely. So let's go back to multiple sclerosis real quick. You said you put her to the side, but also you said that you are doing some work with multiple sclerosis. What do you do within, if anything, with multiple
great,
sclerosis?
great question. So I am involved with the National MS Society. There's a national organization, and then there's different chapters, right? So here in Georgia, we have a chapter. It's in Atlanta. And I am super, super honored and just really, really humble to serve as a trustee with the MS Society Georgia chapter. And I'm also super, super excited to be now the community engagement chair for the entire state of Georgia. And of course, Georgia has 156 counties, so we've got a lot of territory to cover. But those are the things that I'm involved in with the MS Society.
You said there's no cure for multiple sclerosis. What have you found to be your your cure?
Um, great question. I would literally say that for me, it's a positive mindset.
Mm.
Um, and so I bridge together the positive mindset with prayer, and that's my recipe for being able to deal, being able to cope, and kind of deal with the unpredictable nuances of MS. There's a quote that I'll actually share with you, and it says that a positive attitude I think it says something like, let me try to get it together. A positive attitude gives you power over your circumstances, um, instead of your circumstances having power over you. So I think it's said by Joyce Myers, and that's something that I really, really appreciate. So a positive attitude, it gives you power over your circumstances, right? Because sometimes we can't control it. Like I can't control the MS, instead of the MS or my circumstances having power over me.
I love that. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission."
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're displaying here. And I know you have done so much, but after doing some research on you, I realized that you are an author of an ebook, a book on Kindle, excuse me, on Amazon, and it's titled "Witty Words of Wisdom for
Moms,
for
yes,
moms." There we go. There we go. I was trying to sorry, I
yes.
was trying to remember it. But how did that come about? Because it sounds like, and I know you only touched on about three things that you were passionate about, but I know if I just just let it go, it's probably about 20, 30 things that you're doing. but but this but this Kindle book, how did that come about? And when did it come about?
Great question. So, as if life wasn't already busy enough, right? I decided to say, you know what? It is impossible for me to take everything that I've done and share it with everyone. So, if I put it into a book form, perhaps this is something that can live beyond me, and it could be part of my living legacy, and a legacy, at some point when I'm no longer here. But I decided to take a combination of all of the different things that I had gone through in life over the years, and I decided to put it into a book form. But the idea was to share with others that they too could be successful no matter what happened, right? That they too could overcome, that they too could be resilient, that they too could show a level of perseverance. And if me, Domonique from Baltimore, right? From Baltimore City, from West Side, if I could overcome, that they could too. Because when I think back along the journey of my life, honestly, I could say that the things that I've dealt with and the things that I've had to overcome, they weren't easy. But if me as one person could do it based off of my lived experiences, I knew that if I shared with others some tips and tools of success, they too could help to cope with anything, whether it was a health diagnosis or just a life circumstance or ordeal. So that was the whole idea. The book came out a few years ago for my birthday. I'm a September baby, so it was a gift to myself and to my community, both locally and extensions of who I am, just everywhere throughout the US. So my goal and my hope is that the book comes into as many persons heart as possible, but more importantly, the objective was to reach moms to say that I understand what it's like to go through things, but have to keep going no matter what.
I'm sitting here looking at your book right now. I've read it several times. Thank you for making it short.
You can
Because
always expect that I'll go the other way.
yeah,
Short means long means short, short means long. Yeah, I don't quite
yeah,
understand that
yeah.
yet.
I'm glad you made it short enough where I could read in one sitting in about 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm looking at one of the titles, and it represents who you are, and what you've done. Is one chapter in the book that says prayer pays off, and then you wrote that prayer doesn't require a degree. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So growing up for me, I didn't grow up inside of a certain congregation, and as a matter of fact, my knowledge of even the Bible is something that I'm probably not the most well versed. I don't know every you know um part of the Bible that I should know. I don't know all the different books and different scriptures, but what I will say is that it came across to me that you didn't need a degree to be able to pray. When we pray bringing our whole selves to the situation, and it's authenticness. So for prayer, for me, it's just, it has nothing to do with any degree that I hold or that I've earned. Instead, it has everything to be with just coming to God and saying, listen, this is what I need. This is what I'm asking for, and speaking in very basic language. And that was the point behind that chapter.
And the other chapter that I like, and I know you wrote this book for women, but men, I know the color is purple, but guess what? The color is purple and pink. It's still a great book. Another chapter that represents who you are at the core, and so many other women and mothers out there, is occupational options. And you wrote, don't die excuse me do not die with desires and gifts inside of you. Instead, use them use them all up while you can. what
Wow.
what 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 did you mean by that?
So many times I think about family in my own life that had so many gifts and talents, and literally they did not um, use them all. They literally left here physically, and they left things out there that they were good at, and they just never got a chance to accomplish. So for me, my message to women, men, moms, dads, humanity, is that it is our job and our duty and responsibility to literally make good on everything that we have been blessed with. So whatever those gifts, talents, and assets are, to use them and to not let any of them die on a daily basis, and then over the course of our lives.
Les Brown said it this way: live full, die empty.
Absolutely. Totally
and
agree.
that's and that's the way it seems like that you are modeling that saying, not just for yourself but also all the women here, and I was going to say just in Gwinnett. No, all around. You're modeling that, hey, multiple sclerosis is something that I have, but it's not something that has me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um, um so okay, I have a question. I'm going to wait on that one. uh what advice what advice would you give an individual, a mother, a father, a man, woman, a teenager, who are interested in volunteering or getting involved in their community? What advice would you give them?
Don't overthink it. Start somewhere, and don't limit yourself. So first thing, decide to do it. Second thing, do your research, figure out what works best for you, where you think your gifts and your talents and abilities could be used best. Just do it. And when you do it, do a really, really good job at it as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And another thing is, this is the question I wanted to ask, but I wanted to ask it in a different way, because you're so passionate. I can hear the passion in your voice. And not only me, this is what other people have said about you. You are a passionate individual. And the thing is, your passion, you're not selfish with your passion. You're not just passionate about you. It's making sure that Dominique gets ahead. That's not who you represent. You're passionate about the 90-year-old woman who doesn't have her medicine. You're passionate about the elementary school kid who needs this with his class, or the woman that needs this, that needs access. So with that being said, what values do you hold near and dear to your heart to propel you forward?
First and foremost, I would say having high ethics. is a value that's near and dear to my heart. So doing the right thing, even when someone isn't looking, and doing the right thing, even beyond social media. Who I am is who I am on screen and, as they say, in real life. So high ethics or being ethical is probably number one. Number two, the value would be resilience. And the reason it's resilience is because, as I mentioned in the very beginning of our conversation, life will life. And we all must be prepared to be able to deal when unexpected things come our way, because they will, in all categories. It could be financial, it could be health, it could be relationship, it could be anything. But when life happens, to be resilient enough to move on anyway. And the third one that I would probably say would probably be, I'm going to combine it. This is typically me, as you know. Nothing is that simple. So I'd probably say passion and perseverance. And I put those two together and merge them very intentionally, because I think without passion, you can't persevere. And I think without a level of perseverance, you can't be passionate. So those two are probably the last that I would share, is passion and perseverance are those values that I think are of utmost importance, and that are really, really a big deal to me.
Thank you for sharing that. Summing up as we close, if you were to sum up going from being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis to a community champion, how would you sum that up in one sentence?
You have to give me a couple moments, because you're putting me into a box again. So I had a paragraph. You told me a sentence. So let's see. I would probably say, don't doubt your destiny based off of detrimental events. Stay determined anyway.
Wow. See, you did it in one sentence.
That was super hard.
One sentence. You did it. Well, Dominique, thank you so much for joining the Champion Nation and our listeners and our viewers. I'm super excited about your future as well as your present. Where could our viewers and our listeners, where could they reach you?
I am on probably all social media platforms. My favorite that I'd love to share is LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can find me, and my name is spelled Domonique, but it's Domonique. Last name is Cooper. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, as well, under the same name. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the other side and engaging with you in the social media space in the near future.
Thank you so much, Dominique. It has been a pleasure. Champion Nation, you can go from whatever that diagnosis is to champion. All it takes is a positive mindset and some prayer, according to Domonique Cooper. Please like and subscribe, and have a champion day.